everybody, it's me, Marissa D, with Life in 3D, and that's D-E-E. So I've done some kind of cut and dry, like standard videos up until this point, but let's be realistic. Let's get to the nitty-gritty and give you all what you want to know. How did she pop up with 6 kids, 6 black children, overnight? So I'm going to be sharing our story with you. It's a little crazy, a little emotional, so hop on in and let's take it back to a couple years ago. Obviously, I've been with Charles for probably 3 years now. I dropped my shoe. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so I've been with Charles for like 3 years now, so I probably met our beautiful children 2.5 years ago. Charles is one of 12 children, and so these kids are actually his nieces and nephews. They are not Charles' kids. I get so many people that think they are. They're not. They're his nieces and nephews. So they're his older sister's children. So I'll just kind of talk about the first time I remember meeting them. It was probably at one of our family gatherings at his mom's house. We all get together and we just kind of party. Like, that's just what we do. That's what they do as a family. We get together, we drink, we have lots of fun, we turn up. That's just our thing. So we were partying one night, and I think we had been playing board games and just things like that. And I didn't really know his family super well at the time, but well enough to know like who people were. So I just remember like the kid's mom just kind of disappeared one night. Like, I guess she went to bed or whatever the case was. So it was really late, and they were like 2 and 4 and like 5 and like, you know, real young. At least the younger ones were pretty young at the time. And I remember they were just like running around, and it was like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and everybody's asleep and the kids are up running around. And I was like, okay, that was weird, but I was trying to just kind of like keep to myself, I guess, like not my business. But me being me, of course, like I got everybody together and I put everybody to bed. And I remember crying on the way home that night to Charles, and because I had wanted children so badly, and I've just had a really hard time conceiving, and so I'll talk about that in another video. But I just remember like putting them to bed and holding them, and just immediately bonding with these babies. And I remember crying to Charles because I didn't really know that something wasn't right, but like subconsciously I think I knew some things weren't right. And so he just kind of said, you know, it's family business and we just kind of keep to ourselves. And so I just kind of stuck with it. Okay, it's not my business, so I'll just, you know, is what it is. So we'll fast forward. It was like probably December of last year. I remember us talking to Charles' sister, the kid's mom, and she was saying how their dad had recently left, and they were all living with their grandma now, which was Charles and his sister's mom. They were all living with the mom right now. And I was like, okay, you know, it is what it is. But she was telling us that the older boys were having a lot of trouble in school. They were getting bullied. They were acting out. It was just, everybody was doing not great. Their dad had been there off and on since they were babies. And so this time things were different, and the kids knew that. And so Charles kind of took it upon himself to be that male figure in their life, and we decided to start spending some time with them. And so we would pick them up and we would take them places, and then we decided one weekend we weren't doing anything, so we decided, oh, let's have them spend the night. And 5 of them spend the night. So not only did we have them all 5 spend the night, but keep in mind, at the time, Charles and I lived in like a 2-bedroom duplex that was like maybe 800-ish square feet, 900 square feet. And we had like 7 animals. Crazy, don't judge me, but it kind of correlates into the story. We'll talk about it at a later time. Anyway, so we didn't have a whole lot of room or a whole lot of space for 5 little children. But we brought them in, we spent the weekend or the night with them, I think that night. And so the kids asked us if they could come back the next weekend. And so it ended up being a every weekend ordeal. And as we kept them, like on the weekends, we would start kind of picking up on these things that were seemingly like red flags. I remember like when I would bathe the younger ones, there would be like dirt. I mean, like everybody gets dirty, I get it, kids get dirty, they run around and sweat or whatever, but it would be like the bottom of the bathtub would be like completely brown. And they would say things like, we haven't showered since last weekend, since we were here, or we haven't ate today, or they, you know, just crazy stuff that, you know, didn't sound right or didn't sit right. And so I remember we ended up talking to his sister, and she said, yeah, they, you know, were exaggerating. Was what she said. They were exaggerating. That wasn't the truth. But they did end up having to leave his parents' house. And so now they were all living in a shelter in downtown Dallas. And keep in mind, the kids were going to school in Garland. And so they were supposed to be getting on a bus every morning to go on the bus from downtown Dallas all the way to Garland, for them to go to school in the morning. Well, that wasn't really happening how it was supposed to. So months of this goes on where we hear just crazy stuff. We're sleeping on the floor in the shelter. We are eating out of a trash can. We're, you know, so-and-so. Did y'all hear that? But anyways, so-and-so asked somebody on the side of the road for money, or just, you know, crazy stuff that just kids their age, or really anybody, should be doing. And so I just started getting really emotional. And I remember we would drop them off on Sunday nights and they would cry. They wouldn't want to go. They would ask us basically, I think they're breaking out. They would ask us basically to stay. They wanted to live with us. And I remember months went by and we were like, you know, we didn't even really consider it, them living with us. I know, like deep down in my heart, what I wanted, but that wasn't an option at the time. And I remember we had so many conversations with his sister where she would tell us like, oh, we're in the family room, or oh, they're gonna help us get an apartment next week, or oh, you know, this, or oh, that, or, you know, whatever the case was. The kids would tell us that, oh, she was asleep and so we missed breakfast, or we missed lunch, or we missed school because she, you know, would be drinking and fall asleep. And so I think that's when, you know, Charles and I started to have discussions. I was very adamant. I was like, we need to do something, we need to step in. I was super for getting CPS involved. And that's a completely other video on its own. Charles was like, no, that is not an option. And I was like, well, I don't really care. We need to do something. And he was like, you know, it's family business. That's them. We do us. That's just how we do. That's just how we do things. And I was like, that's not acceptable. I remember for probably a good month, like Charles and I were like at each other's heads, where we we couldn't even talk to one another because we were on such separate pages, because I knew deep down in my heart something needed to be done, and he did too, but he wasn't really ready to not only step on people's toes, but like make that big of a decision. And so I remember we had got to this point where I was like, I can't do it. If you can't make the right decision and step in, I can't be with you. And I just remember that being like this pivotal moment in our relationship, because at this point, like, we had thought we were going to get married and like have kids and like live this life together. And I just remember thinking like, I can't be with somebody who's scared to make big decisions. And so he said he needed some time to think about it. So I think like a week had went by, and he comes back a week later and he's like, I talked to my sister. She's saying that she's supposed to be getting this place within this many weeks. He said, I'm not opposed to stepping in, but let's wait and see if she gets this place. And then if it doesn't happen, we'll step in. So me being me, I was like, okay. I wasn't ready to give up on Charles and I yet, and this was my opportunity. I'm very pushy, so this was kind of my point to like get what I wanted, or get things into motion. So we kept getting the kids on the weekends, and then finally that point hit, and I guess it was January, December, March, and nothing had happened. And so we had asked her, and she said, oh, well, we got bumped into back down into the list, and I think they were out of the shelter completely. They didn't have anywhere to go. And so I remember that night, we called and called and called all night long, and we drove to downtown Dallas and picked the kids up at like 1 o'clock in the morning. And then that was that. We talked, it really wasn't even a conversation that we had to have after that, because we knew what needed to happen. So we just told her we would take them for a little while. We would take them to school where she could get a shelter or somewhere to stay. Well, it just kind of didn't work out that way. So we ended up deciding to have a conversation with her. And we sat down with her and we said, hey, look, we understand extenuating circumstances, things are not going right, and we want to be able to help you. Not only you, but help the kids. And so we said we would like to take like temporary guardianship of your kids, and like without any explanation, without any conversation, without anything, she said yes. Now that conversation did not go over well with other friends and family of his, but between us and her, that was the conversation. So what we needed to do from there was get guardianship papers. So we did get those. We got her to sign them. We got them notarized, and we were legal and ready to go. I was now waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 something in the morning, to get the kids ready and drive them from Saxe to Garland over off 30 to their school, and then go back and pick them up. At the time, they were also in this daycare. And so I remember Hilton, he was 4 at the time, and Queenie was 2. They came home and they had these bruises on their chests and on their sides, and these nail marks. And I remember asking the daycare director, I said, hey, what happened? And she just said, oh, I don't really know. I think they got into it with another kid. Okay. Well, some time went by, they came back with more bruises and more nail marks and more, whatever. And so that next day, I took them out of that daycare and they never went back. I had got a call actually from Charles' sister saying I needed to put them back in that daycare immediately, or she was gonna lose her assistance. And I had told her what happened, and she said, well, I need to put them back in that daycare, or or else, basically, regardless of what happened. And for me, that was not gonna fly, so I did everything I could, and I found them a daycare closer to us. So I'm very, very, very hesitant on daycares and people watching our kids now because of that situation. So we'll say April, May, June. No, they got out of school in May. So they got out of school. Then for the summer, I obviously had to take off work for the summer because I was home with the kids, because we didn't have daycare anymore because his sister had gone MIA and not taken care of like our paperwork and things we were needing to do, which, you know, is what it is. So we lost our assistants, or she'll say her assistants, and I took a hiatus from Five Loaves, which was, you know, it is what it is. So keep in mind, we are 7 people living in a 2-bedroom, 900 square foot duplex. We have downsides on our animals. I think we had 4 or 5. We unfortunately had a few animals that passed away, but you know, things happen. So we were able to make our kids a room. We had 2 sets of bunk beds. The girls shared a bed and the boys all had their own beds. And we were just kind of making the best out of a unexpected kind of crappy situation. We decided we really needed a bigger spot when, I guess it was, the summer had went by. July, we had got a call. It was actually July 1st at like 10 o'clock. And Charles' brother had called us and said we needed to come get his son, which was Kyle, or CPS was going to take him. And so I remember we had got somebody to come watch the kids while they were in bed, and we drove to go get him, but it was too late. And so July 1st, our baby had went into CPS custody. So we went through the ringer with that one. And again, that's another video. I have so many other videos I'm gonna make out of this just because it's a lot. But so we had moved. Well, we were considering moving because we were like, look, there was no way they were gonna give us custody of another child if we had 7 people in this small house. Like, we had to find a bigger house. We had to, you know, find another school for the kids. We had to do all kinds of stuff, and neither one of us have had children before, so I was flipping out. Thankfully, I have a great support system and amazing friends and family where I wouldn't have been able to do it. But we decided to move. And thankfully, we moved into a house in Wiley, a 4-bedroom house. Now, keep in mind, we probably hadn't heard. Well, I think when we were living in Saxe, we were hearing from the kid's mom occasionally. She would call, or she would ask to see them, or, you know, whatever the case was. But that was almost a year ago now. And once we moved to Wiley and got them in school and everything, we haven't heard from her. She has gone like 6 months without seeing her kids, and you know, just it is what it is. Several times though, she has threatened to take our children back, but obviously that never follows through, or says she's got a place that she's gonna have and give them, or, you know, whatever. We just kind of have stopped listening at this point, so it kind of, like, it is what it is. I don't really know what our next steps are, but I know that we haven't heard or seen her since Christmas, and it is now May. Is it May? It's April? What month is it? It's April. Yeah. So I don't know what God has in store for us, and I don't know what our next steps are, but I do know there will be next steps, and that's just kind of like a snippet of our story. It was not, it's so much more detailed and so much more ugly and so much more like tears and laughter. And you know, I know y'all see on Facebook like all the cute pictures, but behind all of it, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of struggle, there's been a lot of growth for Charles and I, and for our children. But I mean, overall, it's been an amazing year, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Don't get me wrong, like I do feel, I don't want to say I feel bad. I don't mean to portray his sister in any way. I try to have no hard feelings towards her, you know, but this was in no way to bash her as a person or as a mother or anything like that. These are just simply the facts of what was going on and what has made our story what it is. So like I said, there's so many other stories wrapped up in this one. I have, you know, our CPS struggle getting our baby Kyle. We have, you know, our conceiving, like problems conceiving. We've had, that'll be a video. We've had, you know, just learning to be parents. That's a video on its own. Like I said, this is just a snippet of our story. And I hope you will stay tuned and kind of continue to watch us and watch us grow and hear our stories and hear just our life experiences and be able to share those with us. So I appreciate y'all taking the time and watching, and hopefully that kind of answers some of your questions and just kind of lets you into my heart and know me. So I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching. And subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. It's Life in 3D, and that's DEE with me, Marissa D. Thanks for watching.